Hey guys, and welcome to the beautiful, beautiful, amazing forest and a little lake. I hope you can enjoy the nature with me. I wanted to talk a little bit about identity with you today because we are, as I've been saying, moving into more intense times, and I can hear you. It's already been intense for a while, but it will continue to be so. And it will take a bit of a different form. I don't know anything about how exactly it's going to look, just so that's clear. What I have seen and what I've felt and the messages I've been given is that it will take also new forms. It will look a bit different, but it will be intense. It will be chaotic. It will be experienced as rather dramatic, maybe. And I've been talking about this before, about choice points coming up, more and more of ourselves emerging from within, the one we really are. And we have to shed all these layers of what we are not, what we thought we were, and what we identified as. And that's why I want to talk a bit more about identity, because it's such a essence of what we're going through. And it's such an essence in the experience many have had, having had what we label as awakening earlier, maybe years ago. And it's what many people will be going through. So if we remember this and we can see what others around us are going through, we can maybe hold more compassion if we have more of an understanding. And we can also remember ourselves how to remind ourselves to practice it and move through it in the most helpful way. First and foremost, as we know, there are lots of thoughts, there are lots of emotions. And if we can remember that we are not the thoughts and we are not the emotions when we are moving through things, it helps a lot. If I'm going to process something that has triggered shame in me, or guilt in me, or fear in me, and I'm sitting with this emotion and I think that I'm it's going to be really difficult. It will be impossible for me to move it through my body and to actually let it go, because by thinking I'm it, I'm grabbing onto it. If I'm refusing to feel it because I think that if I feel it, I'm it, then I will also, by the energy I give it, because I'm resisting it, I'm still paying attention to it, I'm still feeding it energy, and it has arose in me, it will still be there because I'm not feeling it through to let it go. If I remember that I'm the consciousness behind the emotion, if I'm the consciousness behind the thought, if I can hear my thought, if I can be aware of my thought, and if I can feel my emotion and I can be aware of it, I can't be it. I have to be what's behind experiencing it. So if you can remember in the time coming that we are not what we are experiencing, we are the consciousness watching it, experiencing it. It can be really intense. It doesn't mean that we're not feeling it, that we're not taking part in it. But it means that it's so much easier to actually let it go, to feel it, and to be able to have, quicker come to some clarity, and also to feel who we really are when we know that we are not everything we're going around trying to not be, or everything we are resisting feeling or experiencing. For many, the awakening, what we label as awakening, for the people that had it years ago, one of the essences in what that has been, and also for the people that are now experiencing it, and for the people that will be experiencing the coming days, weeks, months, and years, it is the identity. It's some of the essence in it. And why is this going to affect so many people now? because the external is crumbling, because the large systems in society that we have understood ourselves in terms of are crumbling, are falling apart. And so if I identify as the role I have, or the material things I have, or the relationships I have, of what I'm doing, all these things, if I think that is my identity, and that has been how I've been moving through this world, because I never really had to question it in a different way, there will be things happening that have to make me question. Now, I had the experience in 2012 when I sort of overnight, looking back, I can see that it was leading up to it for quite a while, but I was not at all listening to the signals. So the experience was that it was sort of overnight at the time, where I had a physical collapse. Suddenly everything was just pulled away from me. My jobs, my studies, my training, I loved working out, my dancing, which I really love, several relationships, the economy, my health. Everything was sort of just taken away at once. And in that process, I had to start questioning myself. It took me years and years to come back. Who am I if I am not, the roles I have at work, the things I know I'm good at, these relationships, the roles I have, even a healthy body? Who am I then? I refused, even though it took years to start. Whoops. Oh, it's a little bit of a hill down here. I refused to identify myself as an illness, but that is challenging during so many years, because you also get really, really, how can I say, faced with, or you really have to look at what how everyone's perspective of you changes. And that is also another aspect of this with the identity, because if you're used to understanding yourself in terms of how others understand you and navigate through that, it's also going to be quite challenging what's coming. So when we start questioning all this, who am I if I can't express myself in that way? Who am I if I'm not the, this employee in this company, if I don't have this and this role, if I'm not a leader of this thing, if I'm not this husband, or if I'm not the wife, if I'm not the daughter or the son, the mother or the father, who am I if I'm not, these things I have? Who am I if everything I used my life to build as a success is falling apart? Who am I if my health suddenly doesn't work anymore? Who am I then? These questions is what wakes people up. Because we identify ourselves in terms of the structure of the reality around us. This is what we have learned. From we are children, we learn to be good at these things, we learn to do things this and this way, and it's very, very easy to start identifying with those things. And my experience is by no means unique. It is, I just wanted to share a bit about it because the essence of it, which is so important, is the whole thing about identity. And so many people have experienced the same or will be experiencing the same. It can take a completely different form. It can be deep grief because of a loss of someone really close to you, of a child. It can be, a divorce. That changes everything. You have to move, you have to, the kids, like everything, all like sudden changes in our lives that affects multiple areas of our life that are the way we are used to move through this world in. That makes us having to sit down and question. We can resist it for a long time, but eventually we'll have to face it. And this is why it's so important to start, if you haven't already, start questioning, who am I if I am not ... Who am I if I'm not this nurse? Who am I if I am not the leader of this company? Who am I if I'm not the father of this child? Who am I if I am not what I have achieved? Who am I? Who am I? And what do I want to express? Because as we are, and I've been talking about this before, as we are embodying more of our light, more of the consciousness that we are, our bodies are starting to change. And we are changing because we are not the limited identity that we experienced ourselves as and believed that we are. It's the limiting beliefs. We believe that that's all we were, but we are so much more. And in order to become all of who we are, all of this, to expand beyond who we were, we have to let go of who we were. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong about who you once were. It means that you are so much more, and some of the things we will have to let go of, and only you knows when it's time to let go of something. I hope you're following me. There's so many limiting beliefs. There are also these like, oh, I just am this way because I experienced this thing. I just am like this. I've always been like this because I had this trauma. Maybe it's time to let go of that trauma. Maybe it's time to just feel it through or to make another choice. If you start questioning, maybe I'm actually not this trauma. Who am I if I don't have to behave these ways that I learned to behave in order to cope with this trauma or this experience? Who am I if I make different choices? Who am I if I make the choices from my heart? Who do I know that I really am? And how can I start create the world that who I really am will thrive in? And can I simultaneously hold compassion for others as they are going through the exact same thing in their lives? It just shows up in a different clothing. It's the same thing. So when we start questioning, who am I? Who am I if I'm not this and this thing, this and this experience, this and this belief? what this person told me I am. We start opening for more to come in, for more to emerge out of us. And we feel the emotions, maybe of grief, maybe we feel shame coming up because we realize that I did things this way because I was afraid, because I held so much shame around something. So I had this coping mechanism, which is really the way I am moving through these and these situations in my life. The coping mechanisms, the behaviors, the thoughts that we have created in order to survive some sort of a trauma or unpleasant, unresolved experience in the past. Those coping mechanisms are things that we will no longer need. We won't need them in a higher frequency. We won't need them when the world changes, because we needed them in order to move through the world we were in. So if we refuse to start to let go of our own shit, our own stuff that are no longer serving us, our own coping mechanisms, our own ways, without judging ourselves for having them, because there was a reason they came, but we don't have to be stuck in that story anymore. You are not your story, you are not your thoughts, and you are not your emotions. You can go beyond, and it's time to go beyond right now. It is easier to move through sudden changes if we are open to step back, open to let go, and also then feel the emotions. If there's grief, if there is fear, these things, it can be very challenging. It can be difficult. Some things can be just a relief when we can let go of them. But some things can be really hard, and let yourself feel the emotions around it. But then feel it through and remember that you are not the emotion. And I think in order for us to remember who we are, or as we are remembering more and more of who we are, and we are being triggered by the external into that remembrance, we are being triggered into letting go of who we are not. So when you are being triggered and when something is challenging, can you also, at the same time as you have whatever the reaction you need to have for you, not a projection onto others, but your reaction, and then finding a way to move through it, can you have that but also remind yourself that you are being triggered into remembering more of who you are and becoming more of who you are. And from that place, using your voice, remembering also through the whole process, you are a sovereign being. You are growing, you are expanding beyond what you have ever been in this experience before. And some